Well, good morning. We're continuing with our monthly podcasts with a program that we called Fridays with Seniors Podcasts. And it's an interview with specialists in their field, all in Greater Vancouver. And they relate their expertise so that you and I, as the listeners, can be more adept at what we might be able to do to assist them and assist seniors in this province, because one day we too will be seniors. And it's good to know that we have expert people that have got great hearts, but more importantly, or as important as their hearts, is their knowledge and understanding of what seniors need. Sundaram, who's the manager of digital banking platform user experience for Coast Capital. So we're delighted to have you. We've got Shauna, Lynde, have I got that right?
It's Shauna, Lynde.
Shauna, Lynde, okay, pardon me. Branch manager of Coast Capital. You're in Vancouver, or whereabouts are you?
Yes, I'm at the West Broadway location.
Terrific. And Gustav Arinzol, have I got that right?
Yeah, you got the last name right.
Very good. Information systems analyst at SSSBC and volunteer with Digital Literacy Project. And Alison Silgardo, who's no stranger to the seniors, who is the Senior Service Society of BC,
Yeah.
and has really helped us put this together and help shape these interviews over the last few months. So that's who we are, and I'm Peter Legge, and it's my privilege and honor, a great privilege and a great honor to be the host of today's program. So the questions: what are the two most common challenges you see with seniors when it comes to digital literacy? And the second part of that question is, why is digital literacy so important? And that's open to anybody and all of you.
I can start us off. I think the two most things I think we're lacking right now with seniors is support for them, especially if they miss an update, or imagine just being gone for like a year from all technology. You come back a year later, it's entirely different. And with them, it's like they're not getting as much support from family members, or just having someone show them how to use a lot of their smart devices. And with that, like, smart device is just a giant resource to access like internet and other like government sites and anywhere where they can find support. Most of it's on the internet now, and I find that like not having access to that is a huge disadvantage in today's day and age. And I'm sure Shauna and Nita can attest to that.
So how specifically can you help these folks?
Well, it's more of like an education piece. And the thing I've noticed is it's kind of like with the slang we use, or the protocol we use to speak to each other. For example, like using the home button on your phone. They don't know what the home button is, they don't know what it does. It's kind of filling in that language gap, like the technical speak that we take for granted. I'm just showing them the basics and showing them how to access the resources. I think that is what really helps them figure out and how to navigate through all the different resources out there and all the potential fraud and all the cybersecurity problems that could occur. It's just having someone navigate for them, show them how to get there.
Would it be safe to say that they've come to this digital universe later in their years?
Oh, a lot of them are only starting to get into it now. I've noticed, like, with a lot of like the seniors we have, they still have their old flip phones, or they have a smartphone, but they only use it to call. Like, they don't realize that there's the internet they can use it for. They can search up how to get to the nearest pharmacy or the nearest life labs, but instead of doing that, no one's really showed them how to. So they're still walking around the streets, or well, looking for an old phone book they have. That's what I've noticed with a lot of seniors, is not knowing that they have access to that with the device in their hands.
Well, Nita, one of my notes says these folks are quite inexperienced and they have a high level of risk of fraud. How do you help them get through that?
I think that a lot of the time, and as you were saying, Peter, a lot of the time, because of the fact that technology allows a lot of self-service, but also allows for a certain amount of anonymity, there is a high level of risk because you don't really know who's on the other side of the fence, and that comes with anxiety for our seniors. But in terms of like how do you protect from this information, there's a lot of education involved, which again, at Coast, we have a lot of information online that helps to support our folks and to support our seniors if they were able to, read through some of that material. We also have some videos. But essentially, as far as cybersecurity is concerned, or like gaining experience with technology is concerned, just looking out for the seniors in your life and educating them about some of these cyber risks or some of these scams or some of the struggles that all of us have, but seniors may face a little bit more acutely. That would be one of the ways to go about it.
So one of my notes say that seniors seem to be more trusting than younger folks, and because of that, they often become targets.
That's right.
How do you help them in that area?
I think that it's simple things. So some of the things that we talk about, especially at Ghost, is that, if someone calls you saying we're calling from the bank, and instead of responding to the person who's on the phone, hang up and call the bank back to make sure that you are calling a phone number that you recognize as opposed to being called from someone else. So we encourage our seniors, we encourage all our members, but we encourage our seniors to reach back to us when you hear from us, so as to make sure that you know who you're reaching out to and who you're speaking with, and you don't take the person on face. So that way you can lean on people that you have connected with or you have reached out to get any information from a financial standpoint.
Shauna, it says, one of my notes say that one of the biggest challenges is the fear of the unknown and the fear of failure. How do you cut through that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think from my experience, both here at the branch as well as personally, I think just fear is a huge barrier to helping seniors get online using digital tools. But I think in addition to that, most seniors have done their banking the same way for 50 plus years. And I think it can be really challenging to break that routine. Many of them express, that they want to keep tellers' jobs. So, but I think they just don't realize necessarily how simple it can be and what's available. But further to the fraud conversation, I think it's really important. And something that we do here at Coast is when we are helping members set up with their digital banking as well as their apps and really showing them how to use things, we include a really in-depth conversation about critical thinking and what frauds and common scams to look out for, as well as just informing them, because the better they're informed, the more informed that they'll be, and the least likely they will be to fall victim to these types of scams. So I think that's really important to include that education piece about what's out there and what to do.
Can you give us a couple of examples on this podcast of some of those frauds that are frequent or more frequent than others?
Sure, absolutely. I think a common one is when somebody calls or somebody approaches them online through a social media app or something similar and pretends to be a family member in trouble, or asks them to go get a draft, or maybe presents an investment opportunity that's kind of too good to be true, and then tells them not to tell anyone, to keep it a secret, and to go to the bank and to either send a wire transfer, a draft. So we educate them on things like that, where it's so important. If it is a family member or somebody pretending to be a family member, hang up, call that person back, just to double check. As well as if somebody tells you to keep it a secret, it's never a good idea. So it's always important to share that with someone either that you trust or somebody at the bank.
Is there somebody that they can go to when they're not sure?
absolutely, they can reach out to Coast. They could reach out to Coast either by calling our advice center or by coming into the branch or reaching out to, maybe they have a financial advisor.
Okay. Well, tell me, how do you help the seniors get to be digitally literate?
Well, Nita's team has created some phenomenal resources available online that will often walk them through, as well as we have printed out versions that are here at the branch. So a lot of times you'll go through things step by step and you may forget it. Seniors may forget it when they get home. So it's always important that we give them some printed material so that they can fall back on for step-by-step guide. But I think what's really important is to use empathy, to use patience, really explain things step by step, drill down on what's really important to them. So maybe the ability to paying bills online is what's really important. Start there. Start with one step and then add on it as they gain confidence. So I think that's really important as well. But we offer in-branch one-on-one tutorials. They can book an appointment. They can sit with someone. We can do that virtually if they prefer to be at home on their home PC. It really is whatever works for them.
Do you are one of the services you provide, you actually help them on a monthly basis to help them pay their bills and make sure it's going to the right people and filled out properly? Is that one of the services you provide?
Well, we wouldn't necessarily help them on a monthly basis as a recurring appointment or anything, but we can help them set up their bills online so that they can either have it automatically paid with their vendors. So BC Hydro sometimes, for example, will automatically debit their account. We can help them set that up, or we can set up so they have the list of vendors online so that when they log into their online banking, they can pick and choose which bills to pay.
And how when you say seniors, what age could this start for somebody when they need some help doing this?
Oh, we don't discriminate. If somebody, 30 years old needs additional support, then we'll support them. We absolutely, it doesn't matter. We're available for digital tutorials for every age group.
Oh, that's good. Excellent, 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 excellent. That's very good. I'll count on that one of these days. So from behind the scenes, Nita, we hear more successful ways of doing things, working well with people that need less support for the basics.
Okay, repeatedly.
What kind of split is that in the marketplace?
I think that with that, where that's concerned, Peter, the way we kind of approach it is that just like Shauna was saying, paying a bill or transferring money from one account to the other, those are things that everybody needs to do pretty much on a weekly or if not on a daily basis, but pretty much on a weekly basis. So some of the things that we focus on from a digital, as part of my responsibilities, for example, from a digital team perspective, we try and make those things really simple so that the more complicated things such as retirement funds or RRSPs or RIFs or transferring funds, where those more involved products are concerned, that if they were to need assistance, they could reach out to folks in the branch or an advice center, or even go online and read about it. So the simpler things like every day, if I may, pedestrian things, those are the things that we try and focus on to make as simple as possible, so that the more complicated things can be saved for folks to help out with.
So what can listeners do to support seniors' digital literacy? Maybe we'll start with you, Alison.
Well, I think the simplest thing to help is something that I have found useful even in my own personal life, is just getting access to a phone, making sure that a senior in your life has a phone with a data plan, maybe setting up the phone for them so they're not left, you present a phone in a box, it's not really helpful, but actually setting it up with their contacts on it. And as Gustav pointed out earlier, actually showing them a few tips and tricks. How do you connect with a family member? How do you connect with a friend? How can you listen to music? In the early days of COVID, for seniors who were not able to access spiritual support, showing them how they could get to their online church or religious organization. Things that were important to them, help them connect to it. And that way they can be more comfortable and familiar with it before they get into the more complicated things. And the other piece is just having those conversations, using that opportunity to understand what interests them or what challenges they may be having. But on a personal level, that's something that anybody in the audience could help a senior in their life or in their community with.
Gustav, it says in my notes that it gets harder to be more patient and empathetic as people get older. How do you deal with that?
Oh, well, basically, the longer they are away from technology, the bigger the gap is. I've noticed, well, what I would do is I try to break down what I would look at first, like the little small things. I even go down all the way down to like some of the jargon we use, because the longer you spend away from devices or like smart devices, that I've noticed they definitely get more scared and more concerned about breaking it. Most common thing I hear from seniors, I've had a senior that was about 98, 99, and he was always scared that if he pushed the button, everything would just break. Common thing would be like, well, I delete the whole thing. And I'm like, no, that's the back button. That's okay. So with people who are a lot older and significantly, disadvantaged when it comes to experience, we go over the most basic things and just reminding them that it's okay. If you make a mistake, you can always do this, or this is how you exit an app if you do something you don't want to do. If your phone freezes, how you reset, kind of show them what you can do to fix things, and kind of just go through the slang and like what each button does. The going back button, the home button, and the app switcher button, showing them what those look like, and pretty much just going over the whole user interface. Yeah, so it's just really breaking down where our eyes fall, what jargon we use, and letting them know that it's okay to make mistakes. Like the whole thing won't just collapse on them. And there's always a way to bring back or go back a step. Yeah, so it's mainly that.
Would you get calls on a regular basis on these subjects?
Sometimes I get calls as like I forgot my password, or what can I do if my device, like my tablet, won't turn on. Yeah, that does happen every now and then. But I've noticed that the more sessions we have with them, the calls become less frequent, and to the point where I sometimes get a message where it's like, hey, my device is frozen, and then 5 seconds later I get another message, I fixed it. And when I hear that, that's like the best, because I know they know enough to fix something, and that they're going to be okay without me. Yeah.
Would you say that's their main tool of external conversation is the computer?
Usually, the first one when I first meet them, it's their home line or their cell phone. But after the more sessions we have, I notice like emails come in. Usually it's emails I receive from them, and sometimes like a WhatsApp message. So I see the transition from the traditional cell phone call or home line call to text message, down to emails, and eventually a WhatsApp message. And that's how I know that they've gone through and evolved with the way they communicate and how they've expanded their range.
Shauna, how do you encourage those people you talk to be more patient and understanding and be more empathetic?
I mean, I think you can relate it to something really simple. I mean, we spoke before, but I think back to when my grandmother taught me how to make pasta. And it's a very complicated process for a young child. And she did so with patience, with understanding, and obviously with a lot of kindness. So I think that generation has done so much for us. It's only right that we return the favor with some empathy and kindness. I think if we relate it back to how we were treated by that generation, it's pretty easy to explain the importance of empathy. And things are more successful if you use a little bit more kindness and patience. The success rate's just going to be that much greater. And I think it's really important that we find out what's important to each individual senior, so that we can really focus on giving them a little bit of confidence with setting them up with something simple that they want to use, that they're excited about. And then once they have a little bit more confidence, adding on to that with each additional step or each additional app or transaction or something will just be that much easier because they'll have that built-in confidence.
Nita, is there any specific thing that our audience could do to support your work?
So when we think about that, right, Peter, like I was just listening to Shauna talk about her grandmom, and like I think that just thinking about the seniors in your life, reaching out to them. A lot of us, and we're fortunate to have patronage from families at Coast, and so a lot of our families bank together, and so it may turn out that you might be familiar with something that you could help your senior parents with, or your senior grandparents with, or whoever in your life who may be struggling with these kind of things. But just think of them, and know that it's really difficult to ask for help sometimes, and so maybe ask them if they need help and reach out to them and see if there's something that you could do. I know that I've had that experience with my mom, for example, where I've been, she was excited about using Skype the very first time to talk to me when I left India, and so like I know that sense of independence and satisfaction, it's very rewarding. So reach out to the seniors in your life, see if they can be helped. If you happen to bank at the same institution, reach out and see if there is any kind of support that you can provide them from a financial standpoint, things that are familiar to you that may then become familiar to them. Those kind of things could definitely help.
What percentage do you think of your clients are mobile versus they're stuck at home?
I wouldn't know the distribution really, but I do know that during COVID, for example, a lot of our seniors were struggling with not being able to come out of their homes and not being able to and Shauna mentioned this to me. She actually mentioned this to me, like banking used to be an outing, right? Like you go out and it's your outing, it's your occasion to see familiar faces and so on and so forth. So I do know that COVID kind of affected that very drastically. And so even folks who may have been mobile previously were now more homebound. I'm hoping that in more recent times that is shifting. And also that, hopefully they have been able to lean a little bit more on digital tools, and so things have become simpler for them in that much time, and they may have accrued that learning curve.
So as we all get older, and medicine is to the point where we pretty much can live a lot longer than we did maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, how does that impact all the various services that you provide? And does that put a strain on your services? And maybe we'll start with you, Shauna.
I mean, a strain on our digital services? I don't think so. I think the digital platform is very robust and it's available for everyone. And we're continuously acquiring new members, so that's not an issue. I think in terms of seniors specifically, I think it's definitely been proven that by being digital, by improved digital literacy can improve overall brain health. It can improve social connection, lower depression rates. I think it can prevent isolation, both socially, improve confidence. I think there's so many benefits to it. And I think specifically with the pandemic, it really pushed a lot of services online only. I know that, even access to doctor's appointments became virtual, ordering groceries, really a lot of government services or applying for things or applying for different recreation activities and things like that are now online only. So I think by enabling our seniors to have that digital literacy is just going to make their life that much better, and probably improve the quality of life, not just the length of it. So I think that's really important to remember, and that's something that we really focus on here at Coast, is not just setting them up for digital banking, but really explaining to them how to use their settings on their devices. So something I think Gustav probably does is show them how to increase the font on things so that they can read it better, because a lot of seniors have visual problems. Just really basic things like that. But I think in terms of draining on our services that we provide, absolutely not. It's something that we're happy to do, and we're constantly innovating our digital systems.
Are you one of the few financial institutions that does this?
Having only worked for Coast for the past 16 years, I can't really speak to the other institutions. Obviously, I think almost every financial institution in Canada offers some type of digital platform. To what types of tutorials and things that they offer, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I don't know if Nita has done more research, but for myself, I only am familiar with what we offer.
So how?
And Coast is and our employees, especially our branch staff, we're often known for going a little bit above and beyond, and how important that member experience is individually. So I think a lot of times it may not be, these tutorial sessions are not something that are prescribed necessarily in sort of our job descriptions, but they're definitely what fills our cup, so to speak, is when we're able to go that extra step and really provide an enhanced member experience for someone who may be struggling.
So how do you, I don't mean to use the word train, but how do you educate and encourage your staff to be knowledgeable to help these people?
It's really when we're going through our training system, when we have new staff, it's really emphasized, not only for seniors specifically, but for all members, just explaining how to use our digital tools, as well as when our staff are promoted or when they move into a more advisory role. Then that's definitely when they're having one-on-one appointments. That's definitely part of the training as well as the coaching that we provide.
Okay.
Myself as a leader, it's something that we touch on weekly, bi-weekly, all of that it's well coached.
Alison, is there anything that you would like to ask this audience to consider doing to help all the folks on this broadcast and help those people at these various institutions who have dedicated huge resources and people resources to help older people?
Yes, Peter, I have two big takeaways, and I think Shauna spoke to it so eloquently around the gateway of access to services. We see that in every way. So to a service provider of whatever service, whether it's a strata manager running a strata meeting, we've seen seniors reach out to us during COVID saying, we have a meeting for our strata, our AGM, but we don't have a smartphone and we can't access the QR code, which is the gateway to that meeting. And they're going to be providing a budget approval for an assessment of $3 million. And we want to voice our concern because we don't have that kind of money to pay for it. Well, they couldn't access their strata meeting and the assessment went through. Consequently, the senior got into trouble. So to any service provider, taking that lens and looking at it, is this something that you need to modify to make it more inclusive? What are the costs of seniors not being able to have a voice at the table? That's one. So just as a general request to have that lens. The other piece is around accessibility to affordable telecommunication. We did a scan for the cost of telecommunication in Canada, and we are one of the highest in the world globally for everybody, for seniors, for vulnerable populations, but just for everyday people. And people have to make a choice in this day and age to whether they can have access to telecommunication or they put food on the table, or do they pay their rent? So it's a simple, it comes down to economics. With a limited number of telecommunications providers globally in Canada, there's not enough competition. The costs are higher than they should be. So we are working with our MP, Peter Julian, and my request would be to everyone listening, connect with your MP, ask for affordable telecommunications for Canada. It would help not just seniors, but people in their lives that they need to communicate with. That would probably be my big ask for anybody listening.
Gustav, a question for you. Obviously, you folks can't do this all by yourself. So you must be able to, you must be needed to recruit a lot of volunteers, a lot of people to help you. How do you do that? And how many more do you need? And how do you go about doing that?
Oh, right now we go through our like a youth group or our young adult ministry. The thing is, like with young adults who are old enough to drive and go see seniors, they also have very busy schedules. It gets kind of hectic, especially with having a full-time job, and some of them are in university. Right now we're just going through who we have at our local parish, and with that, I think just getting it out there, letting them know that there's places to like volunteer, referring to like the SSSBC website, and just letting people know that there are places that need help, that need volunteers. And I think that's the biggest thing right now is just the awareness, especially with like younger populations, because a lot of the young adults that I'm connected with, they don't realize that this is also a problem. Like there's people that are being left behind, and that this is an issue that we should definitely tackle. And we will probably be part of that population that will need help when we become seniors. And
Sure.
just yeah.
Because presumably you know the numbers obviously better than I do, but the older population is going to get bigger as the years go on.
Yep.
So how are you folks going to deal with that? Maybe
spread more awareness, try to let people know, because not even, I guess, just simply just talking to someone and letting them know that like this person over here who's struggling to find out like housing doesn't know that there's like a BC housing website. So it's just pretty much right now it's just letting people know, talking to them, and announcing it at our local parish. Aside from that, we really could use more volunteers.
And how would they go about volunteering? Who would they need to call?
For our local parish, it would be myself. For SSSBC, I'd refer them to Kyoko. And then they go through a screening process and then send in their application. And then from there, they see whether they're fit. If they are, then I'd try to match them with, well, Kyoko would send us a bunch of seniors. I try to coordinate schedules to make sure that they can show up and go through all the sessions, make sure all their needs are met. And then, yeah.
Do they need special skills now, or are those special skills able to get from any of you once they've applied and been accepted?
Most of the problems seniors have, a lot of the young adults they can do. They're relatively basic, like how to set up an email address, how to reset a smart device. A lot of them have basically been born with a tablet in their hands, so they're pretty literate. They know what spam mail looks like, and how Gmail removes like pretty much puts spam in a separate folder, and like who to contact, who not to respond to. So they've pretty much been digitally literate since as soon as they were born. Yeah, but we do screen.
Nita, what would you say if someone said, and I'm going to ask you this, you're going to ask for help today? Specifically, what help do you need today?
Help towards I think that in terms of help, I would just say awareness and support and showing empathy. Make yourself aware about digital, all the stuff that Gustav just went over, the stuff that comes naturally to young folks. Make yourself aware, share that awareness with folks who are either seniors or not seniors, and be empathetic to people who are not as aware as you, and that would go a far way. And then keep in mind that the person that you're helping could very well be you in a couple of years. And so just keep that in mind every time you wonder whether you should extend yourself or not. You definitely should. And so that's really the only help that I could ask for. And I think that yeah, just educate yourself, share the knowledge that you learn, and think about other folks really.
Is there an age group? Does it start in the 50s, 60s? When does it start?
The need for learning, is that what you mean, Peter?
Well, the people that come to you for help, whatever
I
that
don't
help is, if it's the help that we talked to in the last half hour, but how old do those people need to be? Or how
I don't
old
think
are
that
they?
any I don't think that they necessarily come with a particular, I don't think that they necessarily come from a particular age group. I think that the struggles are just slightly different. So my sister, who is in her 40s, she has certain struggles because she grew up at a particular time in technology. My mom, who is almost 70, grew up with a certain exposure to technology. My mom, though, because she's retired, has had more time to spend with technology now. And so she can actually teach my sister a few things. So I don't know if it necessarily starts at a particular age. It's just that all of us were born at a particular point in time. And so our exposure is stuck in that point in time. It's kind of like how I like all music from the 90s and I haven't moved on. So it's just that point in time. I wouldn't say it's an age, it's just exposure at that age, really. I don't know if that answers your question.
What does Shauna? How would you answer that question? What would be your biggest need today?
My biggest need, I think just for, I mean, similar to what Nita said, but just encouraging the public to reach out to their loved ones and friends and family, and just ensure that they're not only have access to some form of device or something, or even a shared access of some kind if maybe they're in a senior's residence, but that they're aware of what resources are available to them. So one thing that we found success with in the past, and we're looking to revamp now that the world has opened up a little bit more to in-person contact, is seminars and partnering with seniors recreational centers, seniors centers, as well as care facilities, is really partnering with staff there and rec advisors to not only train the residents and the participants, but to train up the staff so that they can kind of triage some basic needs, such as how to reset your password, how to reset your usernames, and things like that. But in terms of how people can help, I think it's really simple, just awareness and making sure that they check in on people and make them aware of what resources are available to them, whether it's their bank, their financial institution, or whether it's a tutorial at the Apple Store, or maybe it's arranging some form of one-on-one tutorial with someone like Gustav. It really does depend on the need of that individual. But I think if the least we can do is for us as the public is to reach out to those that we care about and ensure that they're aware and have some form of access.
That's good. I like that. Okay. How about the last word from everybody? And let's start with you, Alison.
Well, I definitely would like to thank Coast Capital Saving Credit Union for sponsoring this. That has been a tremendous opportunity for us to share this conversation, and I'd like to thank them for that. And to everybody else, just reach out to somebody and ask how you can help them. It could be very simple, and you'd be greatly appreciated. So.
Well, I must confess, I still don't think of myself as a senior, but each month when I do these, I pick up some new information from people who are probably younger than me. But the one thing that comes through is the sensitivity and the caring of everyone that comes on these interviews. That they're quite passionate about what they're doing. It's not just a job. It's something to help humanity, and you need to be all congratulated for what you're doing.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Any last words, anybody?
I got one. An hour a week isn't much time, but that could make a difference in someone's life, and everyone can always squeeze in that little hour. Yeah, just find someone who needs help. They're
Okay.
usually right in front of you.
Nita, anything from you?
I think just echoing all the sentiments in the room, Peter, really help folks reach out. Try and see how you can either connect folks with devices or connect folks with information. Reach out if it's specific to banking. Reach out to your FI. They will be more than willing to help. They're eager to ensure and safeguard yourself and your and your peace of mind and your financial security. So do reach out to your FIs. Speak to the folks over there. I'm sure anyone, especially at Coast, any one of us would be happy to help out. But otherwise, just keep your folks in mind and try and care about them. That's really all I have to say.
So one last question. Where did you folks get this empathetic spirit about you to do this? Where did this come from?
I can answer that. For me, it was my family. I have an incredible family who has always shown empathy to others and really displayed and modeled the importance of giving back and just really showing respect for everybody else, especially the generation that came before us. So I think for me, it's been modeled throughout my life by my family and surrounding circle, for sure.
Okay. Gustav?
Being an immigrant, I mean, I came here with no English, and I
Where are you from?
kind of I was born in the Philippines. I came over here when I was 5, no English at all, and it was hard learning another language and to relate to the seniors, learning pretty much the jargon and the terms. That's a whole new language for them. So that's where it comes from.
Okay. And Nita, last word from you.
I think I would echo what Shauna said. Knowing where you come from and having a sense of respect for folks who came before you, who set you up for success in the world that now you get to live in, and who built this world for you and made sure that you build a good world for the ones who follow you. So that respect, it just comes from the people who came before us, and so just respect for them, and hence they took their time and their energy and their patience and their sensitivity to teach us. It's the least we can do to return that favor. Literally the least we can do.
Good for you. Well, I really want to, before we close, have a special thank you to Coast Capital Savings Credit Union for their commitment. Obviously, it's a financial commitment, but I think it's perhaps more than that. It's a commitment from the heart that they want to do something and want to be seen to do something significant for these, let's say, elderly people who are not exactly sure where to turn to. So they need to be lifted up and acknowledged for what they're doing. And I'd like to thank again Coast Capital Saving Credit Union for all they're doing. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of today's broadcast. I learn something every month, and I'm saying to myself, I'm going to need your help somewhere down the road, but I hope it's not too soon. But I'm glad that you're there to help. So thank you very much, and God bless you for being here.